Hi, my name is Tiara. Thank you so much for doing an InBody scan with me. If you've clicked through to your QR code and it took you to this YouTube channel, I am so excited to be taking you through your results to help you better understand what's going on inside your body. Now, what you did with me was an InBody 570 scanner. There's a lot of different types of machines out there that give you different results, but sometimes they're similar and sometimes there's more information. This is one of those ones that's going to have more information, so I want to make sure you know exactly what's going on. And if you have any questions, please make sure you use that contact code to get a hold of me. You can get a hold of me on Instagram at _tiarafit_, or you can contact me through my phone number at the top of your page that you have the printout that you got. So I want to take you through the information so you understand what's going on inside your body and you can get a really good understanding of what's happening. And then you can kind of move forward from there. So let's take a look at what's going on. Make that a big page. Okay. So this is what your InBody scan printout should look like. And as you see over time, if you'll see sort of down here at the bottom, we've got all these little plot points. The more you do it, the more it'll track your progress. Now, biggest thing that I want you to focus on is make sure you have a pen while we're going through this, by the way, because there's 3 numbers on here that are the most crucial. And then there's a few that I'm going to have you just cross out completely, okay? Now, the first one that I want you to pay attention to is this one here, skeletal muscle mass, right under this muscle fat analysis. It's the middle number. Now, you're going to see this down arrow, which indicates that whole section down the page here. That section is your below average. This neutral symbol here and all the way down the page, which I've highlighted in green, is your average. And then the up arrow and this whole section down the page is your above average. So in some situations you want to be above, in some you want to be below, and in some you want to be sort of neutral. And then it all depends on which number we're talking about. Now, before we even get started, I want you to take a look at this weight and then never look at it again, because this number that you have for your weight is just the rest of these numbers all compiled together. So this is why that information is so important. You need to understand that this number here is compiled of the rest of the numbers on the whole page. So let's start with your skeletal muscle mass. When we're talking about muscle, the most important thing you need to know about muscle is that the more, the better, okay? So if you're sitting in your average range, awesome. I want you to keep working on that. Keep lifting weights and bring that number up as high as you can. Sitting in the above average zone is fantastic for this one, okay? Now, you can see there's 3 dot points on here, or 3 little bars that create a C shape, and I've got it highlighted in red there. That C shape indicates that the 2 numbers on the top and the bottom, are higher than the one that's in the middle, your skeletal muscle mass. The most ideal that you want for this one is to be in a D shape, meaning this middle number is higher than the other 2, and the higher that goes, naturally the other 2 tend to go down. Okay, a D shape is most ideal. There's only one other letter that can be created here, and it's called an I, where all 3 of those lines are very close in line with each other. Now, if that happens, it doesn't matter in which section, we just want to make sure that that muscle mass goes as high as possible. So if you are lower, in line, or above, keep that number going up as high as you can. Got it? Okay, moving on. Let's go to body fat percentage, this PBF right down here. Before I touch on that though, I just want you to understand BMI is an absolute crap number. It is just not considered a health metric. It's considered a health metric in the health and fitness industry. However, it is not an accurate form of your health. BMI is your height divided by your weight, and all that is telling you is the original creation for that is for doctors to be able to understand how much medication to give you. And that's it. Okay, so BMI is not an accurate depiction of how healthy you are. It just tells you your height divided by your weight, which could be valuable for them, but it's not telling you if you're actually strong or healthy, because it doesn't take into consideration that muscle does tend to be more dense. So I'm 5'2", I'm about 135 pounds, and mine tells me that I'm usually in the obese category. And sometimes, depending on how much muscle I'm carrying, I could end up into that like really like morbidly obese section. So it can be very, very untrue what the BMI is indicating. So it's not a health metric. It is just a number to help indicate how much medication that the doctors should give you. Cool? So cross that number out. We don't even need it. It's crap. Move down to your body fat percentage. Now, this one's really important here, okay? So for men and women, you want to be in this neutral zone right here in the middle. Okay, this neutral zone or your average zone is like your goal. Okay, so if you're too high or too low, it can affect your hormones. Now, men, you tend to sit more, that your range is usually in the like 10 to 20%. Women, we tend to be more of the 18 to 28% body fat. Those are your typical ranges, but it can vary. Now, if you're slightly above, don't stress. We just want to try to get that down a little bit, okay? If you are too low, try to get it back up into this neutral zone, okay? From there, we want to kind of pay attention to if it's like too high, if your bar is quite far up here. This is where you kind of see things happen like Alzheimer's or chronic diseases, anything that could potentially lead to death or lots and lots of medication being prescribed to you is happening because of this. The best way to handle body fat is through diet and exercise. Now, when I say diet and exercise, I don't mean go all out. You have to work out in the gym 3 hours a day or anything like that, or you have to do these crazy crash diets. I mean, consistent, regular movement on a daily basis, and then very fine-tuned and like just small changes can help you change your nutrition. Okay. And that you will start to see um, bring that body fat percentage right down. So have a look at that. And just like we were trying to build muscle simply by lifting weights for that skeletal muscle mass, more resistance training, more weight training, that's going to see that come up. Diet and exercise here, or I should really say nutrition and exercise for your body fat percentage is what's going to help that stay in control. Cool? Okay, move down to this segmental lean analysis. Now, you'll see it's got this is talking about muscle, by the way. So we're talking about muscle in the body. Now, remember, whenever we talk about muscle, the higher the better. So you always want to try to be in this average zone or ideally in the above average. So you're comparing your right arm to your left arm, how much muscle it typically has. So you'll see there's this top bar in each one. The top bar is telling you how much muscle you're carrying in pounds in each limb. So you can see on this one here, it's a 4.17 in the right arm and a 4.03 pounds in the left arm. Now, if you find some discrepancy, just a tiny little bit here and there, it's totally fine. You're very, very rarely going to be perfectly even amongst each other. It's totally okay. If there's anything more than a half a pound out of whack here, then we definitely want to make sure we're doing something called unilateral movements, which is single-sided stuff. So if you're in the gym, maybe add a couple more reps to the one side that's weaker. If you're in that like half a pound or anything past that, you want to try to keep that balance because if you don't, it will start to twist your body. And that's where you get things like neck pain, back pain, knee pain, right? There's some sort of indication here that's telling you that you're not even. Especially if you've had injuries, you'll be able to pick up on that in this category right here, okay? So you can see I've kind of taken some notes for this one. It says within range on the lower end, I would encourage weight training to improve the results. Anytime you are in this neutral zone or even below, you want to focus on getting that up as high as you can when it comes to muscle, okay? If you do have those imbalances, please make sure you are doing your unilateral movements to even that out. Now, there's also something to pay attention to here as well. So men, this happens a lot, and women, it happens on the other end. So men, we tend to be higher in muscle in the upper body and then lower in muscle in the lower body. So you might have a lot of muscle, you might be sitting in your average range or above average, but maybe your like upper body is like way up here and your lower body is a little bit here. We also don't want to be like super, super stacked up top and have no muscle down at the bottom. Or for the ladies, we tend to carry most of our weight through our legs, or I'm sorry, most of our muscle through our legs, and then our upper body tends to be out of balance. We want to make sure as well as being balanced left to right, that we're balanced top to bottom, because again, it can cause problems. Your body can twist, it can cause issues where there's pulling, straining. Other muscles are working harder to try to balance everything out. It's not fair to the body. So try to keep everything as balanced as possible through your resistance training. Deal? Okay. Now, oh, also, if this is something that comes up a lot, if you find that your non-dominant hand or leg is carrying more weight, sorry, your non-dominant side is carrying less weight than your dominant side. Did I say that properly? The non-dominant is the non-dominant side is carry or has more muscle in it. Okay, there we go. We got it out. If your non-dominant side has more muscle, that is totally fine. Now, I'm going to give you an example of why this happens. So for me, if you're anything like me, I tend to carry all of my groceries on my left side because I'm a righty. So I carry all of my groceries on the left-hand side because my right hand is functional. I can open doors, I can do all that. But I refuse to do 2 trips out to the car and back into the house because I'm going to get them all in one shot. So I'll carry a huge load in my left side so that I can just open doors and do all that and then be done with the trip. It's very often that we do things like that. So if you step up the stairs with the same foot forward every time, or you stand on one leg more than the other, you might have a slight discrepancy there. Again, as long as it's not more than a half a pound out of whack, you are doing fine. If it is, please make sure that you start to balance that out doing unilateral movements. Okay, I'm going to come back to this extracellular water analysis. We're going to go straight up here to the segmental fat because we just talked about the lean analysis or muscle distribution amongst your limbs. This is the fat distribution amongst your limbs. Now, here's the thing, guys. I really need you to pay attention. So if you have all of this fat here, but you have all of this muscle here, it's really cool to know the fat distribution numbers, but there's nothing you can do about it, okay? You can spot treat muscle, meaning if your left side is stronger than your right side and you want to balance them out, you can do more reps or more weight on one side to even that out. But you can't do more bicep curls to lose fat in your arms. You can't do more crunches to lose fat in your stomach. Fat is an energy source and it will get used up as it pleases, and we don't really have control over that. It just kind of happens. So if you want to build muscle in a certain area, lift weights in those. If you want to burn fat, you have to be in a calorie deficit and you have to be moving your body regularly. I hope that makes sense. So very cool to know what these numbers are, but there's not much you can do about it, okay? Now, basal metabolic rate or BMR, this is your basic amount of calories you should be consuming just to survive. So please make sure you're not looking at that number going, that's the number I need to be eating. That's the amount of calories I need to be eating on a daily basis to lose weight. That is not true, and you will not last very long. And that's where yo-yo dieting usually ends up happening, is because you cut your calories way too low. So this is not how much you should be eating to be in a calorie deficit or to be on any sort of diet. This is the amount of calories you need to survive on basic daily functions like breathing, moving, blinking, anything like that on a daily basis. So you need to give your body energy. Please do not be afraid of food. Okay. Now, let's move down to visceral fat. Visceral fat is really important. Okay. Visceral fat, if you're not aware of what that is the fat that sits on and around your organs. It's different than the fat that we were talking about up here. The fat you're talking about up here is called subcutaneous, meaning it's just below the skin and you have more control of it. So that's the fat. The subcutaneous fat is the fat that causes like dimples in the skin that we understand as cellulite and things like that. Visceral fat is the kind that is literally on and around the organs. It is suffocating your organs. This is the dangerous fat, and this is the one that we want to get rid of as soon as possible, okay? So this is the one that causes like all of those health risks and diseases and issues. So pay attention to this. We want this number to be at a 9 or less. So look at your level, and if it's not at a 9 or less, if you're close, you're doing great. Just get yourself into a little bit of a calorie deficit and start moving your body a bit more. Okay, the best way to get rid of visceral fat is through your nutrition. Okay, so pay attention to that. If you're quite high in yours, this is the number that I would focus on right away. And you can simply change it. I've seen people drop like a couple of points in like 4 to 6 weeks. So we're talking like 1 to 2 levels in like 4 to 6 weeks, simply from changing their nutrition. So pay attention, make sure your plate is really colorful, make sure you're eating good portion sizes, you're getting plenty of protein, all that sort of stuff. And please do not be afraid of carbs. You don't want to, it's just like anything else. The appropriate amount is what's good for you, and anything too high or too low is not ever going to be good for you. So pay attention to your nutrition, make your plate colorful, control your portion sizes, and you want to get that number at a 9 or less in order to be considered healthy. But the lower this number is, the better, because we don't want fat on our organs. It's going to cause problems. All right, now let's go here to this extracellular and total body water. Now, we want to be as close to this midline as possible, so in that neutral zone, and you want to be as close to that very center line as possible. This 0.376 is like spot on. I love that. So the closer you are to that center line tells us how hydrated you are and how your body is doing. If you're right on that center line, you're doing fantastic. If you're close, but you're to either side, I'm going to explain what that means. So if you're on the lower end, okay, so you're starting to get towards this way, there's something going on intracellularly, which means inside of the cell. If that number is low, there's a good chance if it's just a little bit low, like you're still within your average range, you're probably just slightly dehydrated, and you definitely need to make sure that you get some electrolytes into you, drink plenty of water. Maybe you just had a long day and you did the InBody at the end of the day or something like that. Just make sure that you are staying hydrated. Now, if it's significantly low, it could indicate that there's something going on and you should go and get a blood test from your doctor. It's a really good indicator that something is going on cellularly, and we need to pay attention to that and address it right away. Now, if you're on the higher end, if you're just a little bit higher, then so you're still within your average zone, but you're just a little bit higher, that is indicating that your extracellular water is retaining. So it could mean that you have a food allergy or intolerance of some kind and you're feeling a little bit bloated. Ladies, maybe you're on your period. Guys, maybe you have, like, if anybody is taking any sort of like medications, you're retaining the water, something like that could really indicate that you have a little bit of bloating going on. If you are on this very high end or you're going this direction, we've got some issues that we really need to focus on and we need to address it right away. So make sure you're paying attention to where that is. And if you do feel like you need to contact a doctor or a nutritionist or even myself, I can help you direct you to who you need to go and see. All right. And then if you move up here, you can kind of see this intracellular and extracellular water. We want this to be at a 3-to-2 ratio. Okay, intracellular at a 3 and an intracellular at intracellular at a 3 and extracellular at a 2. So if you divide those, you should be very close, which is this number right down here. Cool. So if you have any questions, please let me know. You can track your progress. So all of these little dot points right down here are like the more you do the InBody scan, the more you'll be able to see your results come through. From there, you can just constantly track. This is going to give you a much better indication of what's going on inside your body instead of just your weight. So I hope that really helps you understand that weight is not the only thing that is determinant of what your results are. There's so much more behind it. I would also suggest keeping track of the weights that you're doing in the gym, or if you're timing yourself for your workouts, or find some way to track the way your workouts are going so that way you can see what your progress looks like in the gym. If you're getting faster, if you're getting stronger, if your endurance is getting better, those are all indications that you are seeing results that are not indicated on the scale, okay? And then I would also recommend taking photos. Progress photos, not before and after photos, okay? Progress photos once a month, once a week, whatever is best for you so that you can actually physically see your body changing. It helps keep you on track. You know you're going to do it. It's quite an amazing process. And please remember that your body is a living, breathing thing. So because it's not an inanimate object, it's not going to remain the same weight all the time. We bring on fluid, we expel fluid. There's a lot of stuff going on inside our bodies. Ladies alone, we fluctuate our weight 14 times a day. So simply taking your weight by stepping on a scale is not enough. It doesn't tell you what's going on inside your body. This stuff does, as well as the tracking of your workouts, as well as the photos. This is not the only way. Stepping on the scale is not the only way. So please make sure you are working hard, you're following through, you are setting yourself goals, you're testing and you're measuring and you're watching your body change, and you are speaking kindly to yourself. That is so incredibly important. If you have any questions, please make sure you follow me on Instagram at _TiaraFit_, or contact me through the phone number that's on the top of your InBody page, and I would be happy to help you. You can also send me an email at icanfit.tt@gmail.com. I would love to help you in any way that you might need. So have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you. Oops, hold on. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you soon for another InBody scan to help you along with your progress.